Hello, this is Statisticology Special Inside YouTube series. We are meeting in YouTube lesson number 8, which is about testing directional hypothesis part 1. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to discuss the concept of normal distribution. You should be able to explain the reasons for testing the null hypothesis. You should be able to choose the right alpha level for your experiment, and you should be able to know when to reject the null hypothesis. First of all, let us look at the normal distribution curve. The normal distribution curve is a curve that tells us about the distribution of observations. The area under the curve is 100%. What are the characteristics of this curve? One, the curve is known as bell shape, and it is symmetric curve where the mean and the median and the mode are all the same, and the mean is at the center of the curve, and the standard deviations are spread on either side of the curve at equal distance. The curve is known as a unimodal curve because it approaches the x-axis without touching it. What is a null hypothesis? The null hypothesis is the statement that a researcher or an investigator wants to disprove or to reject. And this is a hypothesis about no difference, no effect, no association, no correlations. It is about currently accepted value for a parameter. For examples, if it is accepted that the weight of newly born male babies is 3.5 kilograms, and therefore this hypothesis is about it. For example, if you want to know that the weight of the newly born babies is 3.5, you'll collect data about newly born babies' weight, and then you do the test. When you find that the weight of the newly born male babies is 3.5 kilogram, then we accept the null hypothesis because it is the same. Why testing the null hypothesis? There are many reasons. The first reason is that the null hypothesis actually is the baseline for comparison of the variables. It evaluates the role of a chance. For example, it tells us whether the results of the experiment is produced as a result of the manipulation of the independent variables or by chance. The null hypothesis provides a framework for evidence, which provides evidence for the acceptance of alternative hypothesis once the null hypothesis is rejected. The null hypothesis makes a formal decision. Its rejection provides evidence that relationships or effect exist. It also allows for falsification, means that the null hypothesis is the central to the scientific principle of falsification. If the data contradicts the null hypothesis, then it can be rejected. Alpha level and the rejection of null hypothesis. What is the alpha level? The alpha level, known as significance level in statistics, is the probability of incorrectly rejecting a true null hypothesis. It is a threshold value set by the researcher before a test is conducted. For example, if you set your alpha level to be 5%, so it means that there's 5% chance that the researcher will incorrectly reject the true null hypothesis. And the smaller the value, the better, because if it's 1%, it means that there's only one chance that the researcher will incorrectly reject a true null hypothesis. So 1% is better than 5%. But the question is, lower alpha level is the best. We have just explained it. The lower alpha level is the best because it reduces the probability of type 1 error. It's known as the false positive. It increases the confidence in results. Results are more convincing and trustworthy because it is less likely to result from random chance or coincidence or accident. A smaller alpha level also makes the test more rigorous, which requires a larger effect or more robust p-value to achieve the significance. Impact of lower alpha level. Number one, first of all, the alpha level can be fixed as 5% or 1%. What are the impacts of lower alpha level? It increases the risk of false negative, which is type 2 error that we're going to discuss in details. It also reduces the statistical power. What is the power, the statistical power? This is the probability of correctly rejecting a false null hypothesis because decreasing alpha increases the chance of type 2 error. How to choose the right alpha level? There are a number of criteria that we use for the selection of the right alpha level. Number one, the context and the consequences of making errors. And this one is based on your actual practices or experience. From your experience, appropriate alpha level depends on the context and the consequences of making either type 1 error or type 2 error. In high stakes situation where a false positive is particularly damaging, lower alpha level is preferred. In exploratory studies or situation where missing a true effect is the greater concern, a higher alpha might be more suitable for this experiment. Rejection of the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis is rejected when the p-value or the alpha is less than or equal to the significance level. What does it mean rejecting a null hypothesis? Once the null hypothesis is rejected, this one actually is very important because it means that your observations are very significant and which can provide evidence to support the alternative hypothesis. Conclusion. The null hypothesis is very important in research because it is the baseline for statistical testing, which allow researchers to determine if observed results are due to chance or a genuine effect. Disproving the null hypothesis enables researchers to provide evidence for their alternative hypothesis to ensure that their conclusions are statistically valid and not just random fluctuations. Thank you to attend this lesson. See you in the next one. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Drop your comments there so that I can improve the channel. Thank you.